race. Nervous moments always as they gather on the beach, the tension mounting, and away they go. There's the defending champion, wearing his familiar navy blue and white, great waddling style. Another pre-race favourite though, losing touch with the pack. Maybe that's why. A few too many fish in the day's feeding. There's a familiar face, Skip McIntyre, 8 times a champion back in the 90s, a very successful coach now, keeping a keen eye on proceedings. This the leading group, 1 or 2 still able to put on a show for the camera, others just ploughing straight over it. Some resorting to shortcuts. Sad that cheating has crept into this beautiful sport. The judges will have a look at that. But up at the front, the pace is relentless, closing in on those sand dunes that will offer a bed for the night. The fatigue starting to tell. Who's got the finishing kick up on the outside? What a turn of pace from that one, whichever one it is. No answer from the rest, and he takes victory. What a win. There we are, into the Burrow, building an extension with his winnings, and back tomorrow to try and defend his title here on Phillip Island.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to Penguin Live TV. We are jumping straight into it. I am sorry I might have been a minute or two late, but we've got our first really big group crossing the beach. I do want to thank you for tuning in tonight. My name is Steven. I'll be your host this evening, and we're going to let this group pass before I introduce my co-host, because it's a bit of a distraction, and I want him to get a proper introduction. Ooh, what's going on here? Half of the group really wants to go, and the other half are going back into the rocks. Wow, all the excitement starting on early in tonight. So to give you a bit of an insight of what this just happened, we've had one group of penguins, one raft of penguins that came into the water's edge. That's probably the group that has just made their way across the beach here. And we had another raft of penguins swim in from another direction, and they joined up to form one bigger group. So we really have 2 rafts that are coming their way across the beach. All right, Tom has just heard the number on the radio. If you had a guess for how many were in that first half of a group that crossed the beach, you can put those guesses in the comments. But I should introduce Tom, my co-host. So Tom, if you want to roll over and tell us what we'll be doing tonight.
Hi everyone, welcome to all the regulars and the newbies, whichever way you are. 2,054 penguins last night, and I should know because I was actually counting them. I checked the records. It's the most 700 odd the night before. We haven't had more than 1,000 for a month, and the last time we had 2,000 plus was back in May. And we actually heard some young chicks running around in the colony chasing adults for food behind the skybox, and they're at least 4 weeks old. So between that and the numbers crossing the beach, I can pretty much officially declare that breeding season is well and truly underway, and we've got big groups starting tonight. So I'll be keeping an eye on the Facebook feed. Any interesting questions will pass through. We can't get to everyone, and have a great evening.
Fantastic. Well, I heard it from Tom. He heard chicks at the back of the skybox running around, looking for mom and dad. Ooh, let's swap over to the Penguin Highway. Ooh. Don't go too fast, penguins. I'll try and keep up with you. And yeah, there's a lot of penguins coming home. So he's saying it's the official start of the breeding season, which is really exciting to hear. And yeah, the chicks that are old enough to look for mom and dad, I should say, well, the ones who are leaving their burrows, chasing mom and dad around, they'd be getting around the 4 weeks at the earliest. Maybe 3 weeks if they're really eager, but that's a bit unusual. So 4 weeks is when we'll see the youngest start to come out of their burrows looking for mom and dad. So that means that those eggs have been hatched for quite a while. They're getting ready to grow up big and strong. And in another month or so, they'll probably be ready to head out into the ocean. Now, did we say how many were in that first group there, Tom?
245.
245 in the first group. We did have a second group. Let me swap over to the main camera. John also gave us how many were in the second group, but I don't actually think we saw that second group. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Look at how many penguins are out on the water's edge here. I think we're in for another good night tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting some really good numbers. I was here on the last night, and I think we counted, 700 or so penguins on the last night that I was here. So I'm feeling spoilt for choice. I wasn't lucky enough to watch Vivian do her talk last night. That was a bit special. And Yeah, so I wasn't lucky enough to have an amazing night like Vivian, but you know what? I got an amazing night tonight where I'm getting, maybe we'll get similar numbers to last night. What a great number of penguins that are coming across this beach. So put your guesses in. How many you think are crossing in this group right here? That's a big one. And they're stretching out nicely for John. So he'll be counting that first big mass that came across the beach. And then he's got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 afterwards. So he'll be able to count those individually. And we'll see if they keep stretching out in a nice thin line. It might make it a very easy night for him to count penguins. Now, I never got my introduction done because the penguins came in fast and furious. I managed to introduce myself and Tom. I do want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Bunurong, and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And what a privilege it is to work on the land, what the Bunurong are the traditional custodians of, because this is such a beautiful area, and the animals here are simply fantastic. Out of this world for me. As a Canadian, I never thought I'd have the joy of working with penguins. What an amazing bird they are, and all the other animals that are on this land as well. The wallabies, the Cape Breton geese, the bandicoots, the ricali, the peregrine falcons, the wedge-tailed eagles. I could go on and on and on and just list every animal I could possibly conceive of. And it's such an amazing place to work. Just a joy to see this. I hope I haven't distracted you too much from counting, just expressing my joy of being here. But wow, what a big group. I'm wondering how long I can talk for before they'll actually finish crossing. But put a guess in to think, how many penguins do you think are crossing the beach in front of you here? Don't get distracted by those penguins above my head crossing on the highway. We're counting these penguins on the beach. I think most of them have come their way across. So I'll let you get your guesses in. I'm going to swap over to the highway camera while we get to enjoy the close-ups of the front section of the group. The group is so big, they're already starting to cross in front of our highway camera. That's a big group of penguins. I might stick to the front on view because it's just going to keep coming, aren't they? Now we'll wait for John to send the numbers through. He hasn't actually probably finished counting himself yet. He'll be getting there soon. I'm seeing the tail end of the group. I was just saying to you guys, I don't think he's finished yet. And as I said that, he just finished. So do we have any good guesses for how many were in that group?
Not that many, I don't think.
No guesses for how many?
Lots of guesses. But,
lots of guesses. Great.
I don't think there was any.
I was thinking, oh my God, you guys aren't guessing the penguin numbers? What's going on? We always get tons of guesses. But yes, lots of penguins crossing that beach. Do you have a number to share with us, Tom?
525.
525 penguins. Well, if you're in the 500 mark, you're pretty much right on the number there. That's amazing. 500 in a single group. And to think, when I was working 2 days ago, I think we had 700 penguins in a single night. Imagine that. What a change. All right, I'm going to swap back to the beach because I see a few more penguins that are crossing the beach. I think you guys got left behind, didn't you? Wow. Oh, back to the highway camera. There's another nice group coming right towards the lens. I can't get over watching these guys waddling towards the camera. You don't get any closer than this to a penguin. And these guys look like they're just looking inside the underground viewing area. Well, come on, camera, you can turn faster than that. Now, the underground viewing area is that window on the right. So if you wanted to come and see our penguins, basically from the view of our Live Penguin TV camera, you could press your noses right up on that glass window, which we clean with detergent every single night, because everybody does press their faces right up against the glass. They can't help themselves. I don't blame them. And you'll be able to watch these penguins waddling past with your own eyes in better resolution than our camera can provide on this wet night tonight. Now, we've been pretty lucky. The storm seems to have passed us by. We just caught the tail end of it, and I'm really glad the storm did pass us by because it was a wild one. Really heavy rains coming through, and as Tom was saying earlier in the night, if that storm was about an hour later, these penguins would have come in about half an hour earlier because it was so dark as they were driving down here today. Fantastic. I love watching these penguins going around. Now, Tom, do we have any questions that you want to share?
This is a bit of a poser. This is from Jan Hinkins.
Mm-hmm.
Do all penguins have the same eye colour and blood group?
Right, so we've been asked the blood one before, and I can't honestly remember what the answer was. I'm not sure if we ever got a for sure answer yes. I would assume that they don't have the same blood group, but I couldn't give you a positive answer on that one. I know I Google searched it, trying to find an answer, and I never really got a clear one. So it's one of those interesting ones. And as for eye color, Tom, do you know the answer to that one?
I'm not sure myself, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I'm not sure either. I should know. I see penguins every night, but I guess they're moving too quickly and they're waddling around too much. I haven't actually paid close enough attention to notice if some have those vibrant blue eyes, some have duller gray hazel eyes, maybe brown eyes. I honestly don't know. But I'll see if I can get our camera to focus on a penguin's eye. Sorry, I'm swapping around really fast. Tell me if you can spot a penguin coming up here. See if you notice their eye colors. Is our resolution on the camera good enough to see it? Maybe not. But they do tend to move around. I know on our taxidermy penguins that we have on display here that they do have different colored eyes. Some have blue eyes and some have grayer eyes. I couldn't tell you, do they have the same eye color or not? That's a tricky one. But I do love the tricky questions. I really do. Wow, we were just so spoiled for how many penguins came across just then. I wasn't really ready for the real breeding season numbers to start getting underway just yet. I like to assume that the penguins breeding season is going to start around September, which is not that far away now that I think about it. I think during the last year or so, my concept of time has gone a little bit fuzzy. Sometimes I think, months have passed and it's only been a week or so. Other times, I think no time at all has passed, and all of a sudden, it's almost 2022. I'm still trying to process 2020. I haven't really come around to 2021 yet, so life's a bit funny, isn't it, these days? But I'm glad that you're here sharing your evenings with us, or maybe you're watching in the daytime, wherever you are viewing from. So glad that you're sharing this with us tonight. Do want to thank you for tuning in. It's a lot of fun doing Penguin Live TV, most evenings it feels like. And I hope that once everything does open up for us again and the restrictions are gone, that we can welcome you back, maybe not with a hug, but with a friendly huck to say hello. I can't wait to see all of your smiling faces in person. And personally, I can't wait to get out to see the penguins in person again. I feel like I've been doing the live stream so much recently, I haven't had the joy of getting out there as much as I'd like. Even if it is raining, I love getting out in this wild and woolly weather, being out in the elements, and seeing penguins in their natural habitat. It's one thing to feel like you're sharing it with them in the comfort of your own home, all wrapped up, maybe with a nice warm blanket. Maybe you've got the fire going in these winter months. Maybe you're just nice and toasty warm at home. Whereas these penguins, they're out in the weather. They're pretty toasty warm themselves. Their core temperature is a little bit warmer than a human's, roughly similar, but a little bit warmer. So they're probably feeling pretty comfortable themselves right now, especially with their penguin coat all wrapped up around them, keeping them nice and dry and nice and warm. But I like to share what they're really sharing as well. It makes me feel like I can connect with them in person. And I do want to invite all of you to come visit us in person when we do open up. Actually, we're opening up to Victorians this Friday.
Yep.
So if you are able to, please come down. It will be quite an unusual experience being able to see who knows how many penguins. Maybe you'll get lucky and have a night of 2,000 penguins. You might have an unlucky night and only see 1,000 penguins. We never know how many penguins are going to cross on a night, but there won't be many people here, which is pretty special to be able to come here when there's no crowds and see so many penguins. But we are going to continue our Penguin Live TV for a little bit longer yet. There's always the bad news of restrictions being in place for extended periods of times in certain parts of the country, so we will happily share penguins with you in your own home if you are not able to come here in person. Oh. I did ask John, who is counting our penguins tonight, to clean the cameras, and he did a really, really good job of cleaning the cameras. Unfortunately, with the rain, they do tend to get a little wet continuously, and we don't have little windshield wipers on our cameras to keep them constantly clean. but hopefully they're giving you a good enough picture to see what's happening. How about another question, Tom? I'm sure we've got lots.
This is from Gemma Mills. What happens to a penguin that can't be released into the wild? Which I could probably answer.
I'll let you have that one, Tom. Yeah.
As a general rule, we try and let the penguins live their life as natural as possible. We try and interfere as less as possible. Even with our research, there's certain areas where we only go and check penguins once every 2 weeks, so that it minimises impact. If it's a human injury, like a propeller cut, fishing line oil, if we see a penguin with one of those, we definitely step in. We want to make amends. If it's a natural injury, we try and let it go. They do pick up natural injuries. For example, if a penguin's underweight, it's often because they've got bad feeding skills. And if you put them in hospital for a couple of weeks and fatten them up, all it's doing is perpetuating the problem, and it just keeps happening. So we try and let nature take its course. They do have a very high mortality rate when they're very young in their first couple of years. As far as the question itself, if they can't be rehabilitated and go back into the wild, then they'll be euthanized.
That is unfortunate, being such a large colony of penguins that we do have here on Phillip Island. 32,000 breeding adult penguins, which is a lot. For a company like us where our wildlife clinic can't host that many penguins, we unfortunately can't save every penguin's life. We wish we could. That would be nice, but we also have to take a pragmatic approach of just of understanding the limits of what we can do, and also realizing that sometimes it is cruel to be kind. Like Tom said, if we have an underweight penguin who we bring in and we start feeding them up, that penguin is going to learn that it gets food from us and not the ocean. And that's not helping out the penguin. And it might teach, if it has babies, because it's managed to survive off of our charity, its babies might learn to get food from us as well. And it's not helping the species to thrive and survive on its own. So it's important that we make sure that these penguins survive under their own terms. And as Tom said, if it is a human-caused injury, we will absolutely step in. We will do everything we can to help that penguin rehabilitate. And occasionally, I know our wildlife clinic has a very soft spot for abandoned chicks. They'll take those in as well from time to time. We have lots of areas that we can release abandoned chicks who need caring after. Places where we want the colony to grow into would be an ideal spot. Places where we've done a lot of weed removals and revegetation, but no penguins have really moved into that area yet, or at least not enough penguins. We might move those abandoned chicks when they're ready to grow up, ready to head out into the ocean. We'll put them into a burrow in that area, and they'll find their way to the ocean, and that's where they're going to grow. When they grow up later on and they want a home for their own, that's where they're going to go back to. So it's a way of expanding our colony into new areas. Isn't that fantastic? All right, I still see lots of penguins here on the beach, which is just great. I was not expecting to get this many penguins. That's just unbelievable. I know we had them last night, but I didn't see them with my own eyes, so I wasn't sure what to expect. But wow, for all you water watchers who tune in night after night, I'm sure you're probably shaking your head saying, "Oh, Stephen, you should have known better. You should have tuned into Live Penguin TV." And you're right, I definitely should have. But sometimes life just gets in the way and you don't have the time. Wow, love these guys going up the hill, making their way back home. A lot of these penguins are, as Tom said, they're getting ready for the breeding season. Not all of our penguins have babies yet. That's way too early in the breeding season for that. But a lot of them are getting their places ready for it. And they are making sure that they're fattening themselves up to look attractive to a potential mate. And making sure their houses are nice and clean as well. And some of these penguins, they might have already partnered up. And it's always fun watching their little courtship calls and attaching those bonds at night when you got two penguins outside of the same burrow in the evening. A lot of flirting going on, a lot of shenanigans to watch. And it's an unreal experience. It's not something we really can share too easily on Live Penguin TV. Sometimes Jordan is really good at creeping on a few penguins and when they're getting up to some naughty business. but it's a rare thing to see on Live Penguin TV. When you're here in person, it happens all the time. It's during the breeding season, it's hard to avoid it sometimes. Love these guys. All right. Oh, I gotta change this. All right, let's see if I can swap back to the main beach, see what's happening there. I feel like there's just got to be tons and tons of groups coming, but looks like it might be slowing down finally. Let's do a quick scan. Oh, there's a few penguins out in the distance. I'm not sure if you can see that from at home, but there's quite a few penguins just on the water's edge still. Getting ready to come. That looks like you can be able to see that. There's those stark white bellies that make a stark contrast against the dark background. And that's why our penguins are so nervous about crossing at the first part of the night when it's still quite bright out and there might be a few predators around. Usually there's not, but you never know. The first groups always seem a bit more hesitant than the later groups. Those white bellies really stand up against the dark blue ocean behind them. The camouflage that they rely on in the ocean, their dark blue feathers on the dark blue ocean, when they're lying flat down on the water, really good at hiding them. But when they come out of the water, and you're looking at them from the ground perspective, you got the white belly against the blue background, it's not so good at hiding anymore. So they know this. They know they need to be careful, and that's why they're huddled up into these large groups, or waddled if you want to call them that, and make their way across the beach, hopefully with the safety of numbers. And you can see them. They like to hide in the rocks too. They're just ducking in and around the rocks. It's not easy for a penguin to walk across the rocks. It'd be much easier for them to take a flat sandy route all the way across the shore. But those rocks are better camouflage than the sand. Because if I was a bird of prey and I saw these penguins on the sand, I'd have a bright yellow background of the sand with the dark blue feathers on top. So their camouflage is really working against them out here on the land. So they're huddled up together, crossing the beach, and it is late enough and the weather is so foul for our penguins that I'm sure that they'll be safe from any predators. I'm sure they actually appreciate the stormy weather. Oh, come on, camera, why aren't you focusing? I'm sure they're appreciating the stormy weather. It helps to keep them safer. Who knows if there's any raptor-sized birds around looking for a midnight snack. They should all be asleep well and truly by now. They should all be back home. And I'm just looking at the grassy area around here in the brush, and wow, there's quite a few penguins around here. You got some penguins down here from a couple of different burrows. I'm assuming from a couple of different burrows. And penguins over here, fantastic. Really does look like the breeding season is ramping up and getting ready to really explode. And I cannot wait to start seeing some baby penguins. I'm going to have a quick look at the burrow just to see if anybody from Bluey's family is still there. Nobody inside yet, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on the burrow for the time being, just to see if any parents are at home and maybe if any eggs start to show up in the burrow. You never know when that's going to happen, but all of the rangers here, we love to follow that burrow camera just to see what's happening with our favorite little penguins. How about another question, Tom, as we're waiting for these penguins to make their way along?
This is from Kaylee.
Mm-hmm.
She was asking whether the recent meteor showers would have had any impact on the penguin numbers this week. Once again, as you would have heard the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of really foggy nights. The only meteorological impact that the penguins have is heavy fog. A full moon and a clear night will make them a little bit more nervous, but they'll still come in. So it's only heavy fog on the shoreline that will affect the numbers. It's more to do with water temperature, day temperature, reasons to be on shore, if the food's close by, and it's breeding season. So that's why the numbers are going up. But they can drop off if the food moves too far away.
That's it. Wonderful. Thanks, Tom. So absolutely. The only weather pattern that really affects our penguins is the fog, at least that we've noticed. Never actually been lucky enough to see a penguin out in the ocean during a total eclipse, so I'm sure that would spook them a little bit, but they wouldn't be coming home when the sun's out anyways, so I doubt it would have much of an impact for them. Ooh, there we go. Lovely group on the highway. Yeah. Wonder if any of these penguins are stargazers. Can't imagine they are. They're more interested in what's in the ocean rather than what's in the sky, unless what's in the sky happens to be a bird of prey. Oh, there we go. Heading down the highway on their journey home. Now these penguins, they don't mate for life. Usually they don't anyways. I'm sure there's exceptions to every rule, especially in nature. But our penguins will be getting paired up for the season. And they'll be looking to have their young chicks in the near future. As soon as they pair up, they really get that, attach those bonds for the season. Because when a penguin does pair up for the season, they will both take care of the eggs. It is mom and dad's responsibility to look after the eggs, to look after the chicks. Now, I'm sure some of you have seen the movie The March of the Penguins, where dad will head out. Ooh, I got this in the wrong spot. Let's quickly zoom around there. Dad will head out into, mom will head out into the ocean, and dad will stay at home with the eggs right up until the eggs hatch. Long time without food on land in the freezing cold, frigid Antarctic climate. That's not what happens here for our penguins. They have an entirely different strategy, and their strategy is to just swap places as much as they can. So let's say mom's at home with the eggs. She's sitting on the eggs for a day, 2 days, 3 days, however long it may be. Then dad comes home. It's his turn to sit on the eggs, and then mom goes out fishing. And they keep changing places throughout the breeding season, throughout when they're raising their chicks and their eggs. And luckily for the eggs and for the chicks, if it goes a little too long before mom or dad comes home, the eggs can be abandoned for a period of time, and they can survive. I can't remember who told me this. It might have been Elizabeth, who is our most experienced ranger here. She's been working here for 35 odd years, give or take a little bit. And she used to live in the housing estate that we had up on the hill here back before we bought all the houses back. And I believe she told me that the longest she's ever seen an egg be abandoned for was about 11 days, and it's still hatched, which is just unbelievable to me. 11 days of the egg getting cold and going back down to room temperature, basically, not being incubated. And it's still hatched. It just hatched about 10 or 11 days later than it was expected to. So the eggs can survive being abandoned. The risk does get higher and higher for each day that it is abandoned, of course. But if mom or dad don't manage to make it home for the egg, they should be fine. And the same might be true for the chicks as well. Now, it's a bit more difficult for the chicks because they have no ability to thermoregulate. They can't maintain their own body temperature. But if it's a hot enough time during the daytime, they shouldn't have too many issues, as long as it's warm enough to keep them at an ideal temperature. So miracles do happen in nature. Even if mom and dad are struggling to get enough food to feed their babies, these wonderful events do still happen. It looks like we got a pair of penguins down here that have already partnered up for the evening. Not sure if there's going to be any shenanigans happening with these penguins tonight. There we go. Come on, you can focus. There we go. Now, there would be a burrow very nearby where these penguins are standing. All of these bushes provide ideal cover for a penguin burrow. They can make a burrow just underneath the bushes, finding a safe place out of the direct gaze of any predators in the daytime. Stay nice and hidden, and the burrows provide wonderful shade for our penguins. The shade will keep them cool during the very hot summer days. It's not hot or summer yet right now, but when the summertime does come around, it can be quite dangerous for our penguins. Anything over 35 degrees is potentially fatal for a penguin, especially when it's over an extended period of time. Tom has given me the 5-minute warning a few minutes ago. I'm really good at ignoring that one. I'm sorry, Tom.
That's okay.
I get so excited talking about penguins. I'm much better than the Jordan 5 minutes. I'm not sure how the Vivian 5 minutes is yet. I might have to look at that one. Let's see if I'm the most efficient or if I'm one of the worst ones when it comes to the 5-minute call. Ooh, I saw these two penguins over here doing a little dance together, but it looks like they're not really getting up to anything else. Let's see if anything happens. We'll keep our eyes on these guys just to see what they get up to. And while we're peering at these little penguins, Tom, do we have another question we can...
Yeah, this is from JD. When you stopped tagging penguins and moved to microchips, did you remove the tags from the penguins?
Absolutely. Oh, do you want to answer this one, Tom?
That's fine.
Thanks, Tom. Sorry. Absolutely, we did remove the tags from our penguins. Was that in 2000 or 2002?
Maybe.
The year we got the microchips instead of the tags, the flipper bands, I mean?
It was about 16, 17, 18 years ago, but there's still penguins with tags on. So
They are, yes. Anytime that the researchers do find the tags, though, they like to take them off because they found that the tags do create drag in the water while they're swimming. So if it ends up in their research site, they will give it a microchip and take off the tag if they find it. So we are losing those flipper bands. I believe it was Dr. Dan who did a study on that and found out that while the drag of the flipper band wasn't really harmful for the penguins, it was significant enough that he was concerned about it. A penguin who might be, well, I was on the wrong camera there. Sorry, guys. I've been staring at the highway and not switching the cameras to the highway. But we got the couple of penguins here. Sorry about that. When the drag is significant enough that if a penguin was not as successful at fishing as other penguins, it could cause them additional troubles. So we didn't want to cause any of our penguins who are struggling a little bit any additional harm. So they decided to start removing those flipper bands if they found them. And they didn't always manage to find every flipper band because penguins, they don't stay in the same house their whole life. The male might stay in the house the whole life, but the females, they like to move around a little bit. And those females could easily move out of a research site into different areas, and they'll probably get lost from our researchers' eyes. So we have seen flipper bands still around, although it's been a long time since I've actually seen a flipper band. Has it been a year already? It might have been a year since I last saw a flipper band. As Tom said, it was maybe 16, 17 years ago that we started swapping around. I thought it was around 2002. I could be mistaken on that. And those penguins are quite a bit older, so it's unlikely that they'd be surviving for that long. So the numbers will naturally decline. The flipper bands will naturally decline the longer we go. Wonderful. These guys are heading up the hill on a journey home. We've got penguin bums on the screen above me. I'm actually going to swap over this time and get this camera properly going. Hello, Bandicoot. Ooh, you were a big one. In the distance, you might have saw that small marsupial running across the screen. Definitely a bandicoot. Let's see if there's anything else happening around here. Those bandicoots were officially labeled as extinct in the wild. They have recently been taken off that, and they're now critically endangered, which is a nice upgrade for them. And we're hoping that the bandicoot numbers are going to continue to improve here on the Summerlands Peninsula. And hopefully we can get them off the critically endangered list and see how we go at protecting their conservation status, go at protecting their numbers in our conservation work. All right, the numbers have really started to die down now. I could keep talking all night long. I don't even need penguins to continue talking, really, but it might be a good time to wrap up. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing the sheer magnitude of penguins we had tonight. Really good numbers. Put your guesses in the comments, maybe for tomorrow's stream, of how many penguins you thought crossed the beach tonight. I reckon it's going to be in a similar ballpark. What do you think, Tom? Similar to last night?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, well, Tom was counting last night, so he's the one that would know. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow night. I believe Jordan might be doing the stream tomorrow night.
And I'm counting tomorrow night as well.
And Tom is counting tomorrow night as well. Fantastic. So thanks again. Have a wonderful evening.